Welcome to Cheating Wife Chronicles. Here, we delve into various situations caused by infidelity in relationships. Subscribe and share your thoughts in the comments. I'm 43 years old, and my common-law spouse is 32. This is my second marriage. She gave birth to a daughter a year and a half ago. I have a 16-year-old son from my first marriage. She had no children prior to this. We are doing well financially. I've owned my own business for 15 years. Our family is good. No one really burdens me with any sacred cow status. My wife is completely dedicated to the kids and creating a comfortable home, but she doesn't neglect me either. We have a cleaner who comes twice a week to assist, a nanny 5 times a week, gardeners once, and a household helper 5 times. From an outsider's perspective, we appear to be a content, affectionate adult couple with adorable children, as it should be. However, behind this facade, there are subtleties that could shatter everything in an instant, and now everything hinges solely on me. To better illustrate my profile and arrange everything neatly, we must go back to 1998, when I was 23 and encountered my first love, who was 18 at the time. It will be quite lengthy, so I will attempt to condense it as much as possible, which may distort the overall picture somewhat. My first love was from a suburb of the capital, 90 kilometers away. I was 23, an Army Reserve officer, had completed 5 years of military school and a year of Army service. I was 6'2" and an athlete. She was 5'9" and a beauty. We had passion, intimacy, and love. At the time, I was jobless, had sold my grandma's house, had money, was spending it, waiting to get a job with the police, got turned down there, ran out of money, worked as a loader and security guard, had almost no money, felt ashamed in front of her, became depressed. In '99, I departed for the capital, secured a job, rented a room with the money I got from pawning my mother's engagement ring, earned a little, visited my love, lavished her with presents. The relationship was mended. In 2000, I took her, and we relocated to a new job in a city of millions. She lasted 3 months. We argued that I wasn't giving her enough attention. We went to her parents, I proposed. Had an altercation with her 2 brothers. She sided with me, but I left on my own because she had to take exams. Jealousy on her part, scandal, quarrel. I cheated once, she cheated too. We reconciled, but she got a boyfriend with a Mercedes. It stung me. I went to a club, picked up a cute girl, slept with her. I got lucky. The sex was great, and it made me feel better right away. I pursued women. She tracked me down. I wasn't interested in her anymore. I only needed her for sex to take revenge for something. Mercedes was no longer appealing to me. For me, there was no one better than her at that time. There was nothing to do, and I had no desire to be a boy on call. She chose a mature, stable, and wealthier guy. I continued to work, with brief romances in my personal life. In 2001, I returned to the capital, pulled off a deal, bought a car. Met a beauty who appeared about 23, and I was 26 at the time. She became my future wife. Now she is my ex-wife, the one with the 16-year-old child. She was seeing someone, lived downtown independently with a salary lower than the rent for her apartment. Sort of fell in love with me and said that she honestly explained everything to her boyfriend and would never see him again. Moved in with me to a rented apartment in a residential area. After 3 months of cohabitation, she got pregnant. It turned out that she was 29, not 23, but a month later I accidentally discovered that the same ex-boyfriend was her boss, and she was his mistress, and saw him every day at work. I kicked her out. Kicked her out because she lied. Her tears that it was a lie for the good. Because if she had told the truth, I wouldn't have accepted it. I wouldn't have accepted that she continued to see her ex. Work and money were needed for both of us. Having assessed that director,
I realized that the child was mine, but I also realized that she was corrupt. I decided that the child was not to blame. He would be born, grow up, remember who his dad was. I would provide for him and leave her. But there was hope that it was still a direct lie, supposedly for the good, and that there was nothing there. I got married at the insistent recommendation of my parents. Like, how could a son be without a father?
The wife went on maternity leave. From that moment until the divorce, she never worked anywhere. In 2002, our son was born. I lost my job, created my own company, started developing it. I cheated on her 3 times because there was no sex for 8 months. The first time, my buddies got me drunk and convinced me to get a call girl. Before that, I refused twice. I thought I was so cool that such girls were only for freaks and invalids. The second time, I cheated with a colleague at a corporate event. The third time, with a random fellow passenger on the bus. I listened to my wife to save money and not drive. In 2003, I purchased an apartment on credit, renovated it, we moved. She began to insure herself in case of divorce. Threw a scandal about why I didn't register her, meaning I wanted to cheat her. Although in marriage the apartment is divided in half under any circumstances. I put a mental check mark. I registered the next assets in my mother's name. I cheated on her 3 more times, with students for money who had part-time jobs as call girls. It was very convenient, by the way, no romances. In 2004, she got pregnant. We decided to keep it. A week later, she changed her mind, had an abortion, and then there were complications. She demanded that I tear the doctors apart. I explained that we signed papers that allowed for a 10% probability, but if she really needed to, I could sick an inspection on them. But it would cost me more. She said she was going to divorce me. I left, rented an apartment, found a girl and started seeing her on weekends. I saw my son. My wife filed for divorce, then changed her mind and said she loved me. I reported that I had another one. She threw a fit. I stayed with them. We slept together. She asked for forgiveness. I stayed. In 2005, she couldn't accept that there had been another woman. Scandals, jealousy, not speaking for 3 months. At work, I stayed until 10 p.m. because I didn't want to go home at all. I cheated with a married colleague. In 2006, the scandals continued. In April, she asked me to leave her again. I rented an apartment again. After 3 weeks, she made up with me herself. Again, passion for a couple of days, and then scandals. Then it seems she cheated on me. I lost interest in her. There was a special relationship with me on business trips. There were a couple of women for money. At a corporate event, I ended up in a sauna with a colleague. Several more times we met in the sauna with girls from the office who worked during the day, and sometimes made extra money in the evening. In November, I rented an apartment and left my wife. In 2007, I started seeing the married colleague more often, 3 times a week. I was with my son every week. In April, the wife wanted love and affection again. The married colleague was jealous, although the agreement was that I was in a family and not a soul. She herself wrote us, which my wife read. I left again, broke off the relationship for such a setup. The wife asked me back. I came. She said she wasn't jealous anymore. The main thing was for me to fire her from work, to which I refused. I bought my wife a car and took her to a resort. In turn, she deliberately flirted with vacationers there to annoy me, and at the same time was jealous. On the birthday of the married colleague, the wife got her husband's phone number, dialed and said that she was cheating on him, that their daughter was from me. I left my wife, filed for divorce, organized the divorce through the court without her. She only got a notification. I left my part of the apartment to my son out of revenge. She didn't let me see him. Then she did, but brought him for overnight stays a couple of times with acquaintances so that the son wouldn't tell that she was getting to know strange uncles. Then there were 3 different girls. It didn't work out. Sometimes I saw my first love. She got married to that very Mercedes. But after 3 months, I started seeing the married colleague again. In 2008, I constantly saw the married colleague almost without cheating on her. There were a couple of times. With my first love, we saw each other when she fought with her husband, or when my married woman went on vacation with her husband. Yes, it's hard to accept. For me, it was mostly work. The colleague would come over 2 or 3 times a week. It was a holiday for each other. In 2009, all the same in terms of sex. I just stopped seeing my first love. Sometimes there were girls for money if we went to the sauna with business partners. I got into serious trouble and almost lost my business. I got out of it. I carried a gun for 6 months and lost a lot of money and nerves. The colleague began to insist that she wanted to live with me, for me to accept her child. I refused. 2010, the relationship with the colleague dragged on. She started drinking. She was 2 years older than me. I was 35. She was 37. I bought myself an apartment and moved out of the rented one. I decided it was time to start a family with a decent woman. I started the search. Periodically, there were echoes of the business war of 2009, leading to periodic raids by law enforcement at the request of competitors. After another repelled raid, I organized a celebration for the participants who helped in the repulsion. As expected, alcohol, a restaurant with a hotel, corrupt ladies. It coincided with the May holidays. With one of my comrades, a couple of days later, we decided to relax in the sauna. We called for brides. We didn't like them. We sent them back. He suggested going to a nightclub where students, divorcees, housewives, or just ladies come to earn some extra money. They agree to quick sex for money. You provide the territory and monetary reward. That's where it all started. We arrived. He immediately stuck to one from the entrance. She was with a girlfriend who was all in black, pants and a turtleneck, and with a face and body ready to hit you on the forehead if you start a conversation with her. I didn't like it. I ran through the hall. It was Sunday, 2 a.m. on May 2nd. There were few people. I didn't find anything interesting, as I was sober as glass. My companion was whispering something in his blonde's ear. She burst out laughing. The friend sat next to her with a disgruntled face, her arms folded across her chest. She's not what you need, was the primary thought when my gaze fell on her. She got up and went somewhere. I noticed a slender, thin figure and realized that she was very slim in herself. At the sight of a beautiful rear and not small breasts concealed under a black turtleneck, I decided to disregard the disgruntled face. When she returned, I sat down beside her, embraced her, and my hand rested on her chest. I felt a rapid heartbeat. She put her hand on mine, pressing it even tighter to herself. I inquired, "Are you nervous?" She replied, "No, I have a heart condition since childhood. That's why it's pounding like that." And then Jack London, Kuprin, and other romantics awakened in me. Something clicked. Before me sat a sweet, fragile creature who had a bad heart and was trying with all her appearance to show readiness to fight back against the whole world. Although in fact she was afraid of everything. She just radiated a kind of hopelessness and sadness. After conversing for another half hour, we suggested they accompany us. They agreed. When we went out, it was starting to get light, and I saw her eyes. I realized that in the darkness of the hall I was very much mistaken. It was a thin, very pretty, even one might say beautiful girl with a great figure, about 23, 24 years old, terribly insecure, with big adult eyes. I liked her even more. The effect of the disgruntled face vanished, and I began to brag in front of her like a boy. She also tried not to hit the dirt with her face. We behaved like a boy and a girl in a sandbox, to whom we liked each other, forgetting that she was going to sell herself and I was going to buy. We arrived at my friend's apartment. We cheerfully dispersed to the rooms, did what we needed to do. Afterward, I gave them money. When saying goodbye, she pecked me on the shoulder as she could not reach my cheek. I took her phone number. I thought about her for a week. The married lady was still doing somersaults for me, and I decided to have another meeting with my new acquaintance. She came to my house. We talked for 3 or 4 hours. She was mostly silent. I told her that my first love had had a baby, that we should drink to that, to which she said you shouldn't be so sentimental. The sex that evening was more for show on my part. I suggested she stay the night. She refused. I don't stay overnight. Before she left, I dropped a phrase like a joke. Maybe you'll give me a child. I'm tired of being alone. After that time, I felt better. I started thinking about her less. Plus, it hooked me that she refused to stay. I didn't offer that to anyone. Such an honor for her. She refused. I was offended. She wrote to me a week later, early in the morning. Balm for my pride. I said we'd meet, but only if we stayed the whole night. She agreed. I got tired of texting. I tried to call. She dropped the call. Wrote that she was with her husband. He was like a freeloader. She arrived. Talk, sex, sleep, sex. She told me that she and her husband were very advanced in terms of sex, like they enjoy life. I thought to myself, to each their own. I'm somehow not ready to share my woman with someone. We exchanged kidneys. She sent me music and 2 photos in a sharp Nime style at home in provocative poses. And I was very surprised. It did not tie in with her in any way. Beautiful music, a modest, insecure girl, and impudent photos, most likely taken by her husband. I decided not to invite her anymore. It smacked of some kind of brain disease. She sometimes wrote to me. I answered, smoothly transferring communication to a jokingly friendly format, but thoughts about her still did not leave me. I began to actively meet girls on the street in an attempt to urgently find a simple girl, but nothing came of it. About 3 weeks after our sleep together, my friends suggested going out on Friday. We went to a strip club. We started drinking. The strippers were not interesting at all. I took everyone to the same nightclub where I met her. I met her there. I got drunk as a skunk. For the first time, I started kissing her, not being shy in front of anyone. Kissing a prostitute was a taboo for me. She took me home. In the morning, there was sex. I gave her money. She gave it back to me. In general, we began to correspond 24 hours a day and meet periodically. After 2 weeks, we were in love with each other up to our ears. I said that I would break up with her under any circumstances, because a young lady with such experience was unacceptable to me. I called the married colleague, but she just got lost from me. I remembered a decent girl I knew. I picked her up, brought her home, sat down, looked at her, packed her back up, and took her back. And I went to that club and took my love. Soon she reported that she had broken up with her husband and no longer went to any clubs. To the question of how you will earn money, I'm getting a job. I said that I would give her money for the first time, finance a heart surgery, so that she could give birth, because the heart diagnosis prohibited her from carrying and giving birth. Once she came with a black eye. She said she lost consciousness from a heart attack, and I, in parallel, met 3 decent girls. But besides a couple or 3 times of sex, I didn't last. My love wrote me text messages and patiently waited for me to call her. We lived like that until January 2011. At the end of the year, she had an abortion. In 2011, she got a job with a relative of her parents. By chance, I found her husband's profile on social networks and hacked his correspondence. It turned out that my love continued to live with him. I confronted her with the facts. She admitted that she could not and was afraid to leave him, because he had been beating her for all 7 years of their marriage. That black eye was from him hitting her. I said that I would help her rent a new apartment and provide security while she left.